and he actually is the father of plastic surgery. So many procedures, still as a handful that I can recall off the top of my head is the modern day removal of the lens was done by Shiraka. And it contained one of the treatments that we still do today, where we take garbanzo bean flour and water, and we make a dough dam around the eyes, and then you fill that with ghee. And then you have the patient look up and create a clock, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. And then this crude way, he would take this hot poker and pull the cloudy lens off to the side, thus giving back the wider vision back. He also Mohs surgery, the same way that Mohs surgery is done today, where there is a large portion of epidermis and dermis missing from an area on the body. They would use a leaf, and the leaf was drawn and then put onto the skin to turn the flap. That's still exact same way that we do it in plastic surgery today. So the surgeon had this insight to use warm and heavy on the trigeminal nerve. As we know, the trigeminal nerve comes out and it hits the surface of the center of the forehead where the third eye comes together, and then it has this beautiful iteration where it then has a second part that comes to the top of the mandible, and then down to the top of the maxilla, and then to the bottom of the mandible. So when it hits the jaw, it actually turns that extra piece of the central nervous system has actually not just the sensory, but it has the motor nerve as well. And so that's important. And we see that as we are taking this warm, heavy, and I have the ability to make this aperture wider or smaller, so I can go gross or wide, and that's here. And I can actually get into the nerve. I see it as this is falling, and everyone else, once we get a person to be our demo, we will see the indentation as we've gone through the epidermis, the dermal, and all the way through the fascia, hitting the bone, and then actually seeing the waveform of the bone come back up, and it makes this wide opening. And so that happens, that's how we as the practitioners can then not only basically do a movement around the nerve, and then I can drag the nerve or drag the tissues just over it, and you can feel the release. So there's drag in here. I also have the ability to control temperature. Number one, the temperature is, as we know, the frontal lobe is 101.3. Yes, our skin temperature is 98.6, 99, underarms, axillary. But the frontal lobe, we know from studies from some of the drug studies that are out from NIH, 101.3. And so I come in at 101. And as that is, within the first minute and a half, as that is heating up not only the skin, but it's also sending radiation into the underlying tissues, which then becomes CSF, I can then go to 102, and it automatically resets. That indentation that I told you about that will come up on the skin grows wider, and there's an audible 8 out of 10 times sigh from the patient, the client, and they release and let go. And then that's the beginning of the actual treatment. It lasts about 30 minutes. And traditionally, you would have to use 2 liters of oil, pour it, you're putting it over the client's head, it's falling off the back of their head, you have to catch it, rewarm it. So in a traditional setting in India, it takes 2, sometimes 3 people to do one person. And so in 2012, my buddy created this machine, an engineer, that, number one, you're not working anymore. You're actually observing your client, observing the patient. And observing comes with following prana, following the breath. And we are able to, from the head, look all the way down, seeing the feet. I can see the belly rise and fall. And sometimes prana actually gets stuck here, and people do not breathe through their bodies. And as a result, we then use other traditional vibrational tools. One of the ones that I use that we start out with are these beautiful rose heads, rose petals, and they go on the center of the palm, which is a direct relationship to the heart chakra and to the lungs. And so every time we start, no matter what the scenario is, why they have been sent for this treatment, we always want to protect their heart. That's something that I learned, but I've not seen that in all practices. As if I did this in Detroit versus if I was from New Delhi, the lineage might be different, so the teachings might be different. And so the way I was taught in my lineage, it was to also protect the heart chakra of all clients, no matter, even if that was on the page. And so we do that in a couple different ways. Our lighting system in our office, because we use colorism as well, we hug them with a green light. So these fluorescents are green instead, and so we have green light, and that is how we actually start the intake. And our intake is no longer paper from the bodywork side. It is a foot bath filled with salt water, filled with rose petals, and grounding. And so after we have put a treatment or a position of holding over the heart chakra, we then take away the eyes, and that is very important. The very first study that was ever done with Shiro Dara in 2005 was in Japan, and they did it in a laboratory setting, and the lights were even brighter than they are in here, and the patients and clients were patients. We're all hooked up to EKG, ECG, all the things, right? Plus, right, a sleep study. So the Pittsburgh scale was used, and of course, at the time, now we have the DSM-7, but back then it was like the DSM-5 or maybe DSM-4. I think that didn't come out until '84. But the reason why I say that is you need to have baseline. And that baseline before and after is going to see, well, was this even worth it? And now finally, after 25 years, automatic Shirodara is showing up in the science space all across the world. And our biggest studies have come from Japan, even though this is an Indian traditional tool. And so we're very lucky to know that once you take away the different gateways, it makes the client go inward. And so cotton iPads just go over. We use, of course, rose water on them because they're cooling over this heated area. And so that allows, and then there is an aroma to it as well. It's just raw rose water, organic. And so as the client is there, they're then at this next level of what we hear. And on purpose, we use nature. So, of course, there are birds, and I don't have it up very loud because I didn't want Tanya, talking over the music. But there's also a water element in it, and the water element on purpose is flowing away. And so that is the basis of how you even get the client onto the table. You have these different levels that are pre-established, and then you introduce and you bring this tool in. Now this tool has the ability to energetically, from the eastern side, push down towards the feet. And so we talk about contraindications. Who should we not do this on? Well, number one is going to be women in their third trimester, because it has the ability to induce or push. It's a pushing element whenever you push on here. Also on the inside of the ankles as well. These are areas during the third trimester. But up until that point, this is a wonderful tool for calm, introspection, grounding. Also, in the right hands, I was just in Houston also for a midwife, who is using this for 40 plus, all right? And so knowing what its outcomes or effects are, she really invested into her integrative side and uses it that way as well. So in the right hands, it can be appreciated versus appropriated. This bowl sits right on it sits right on the diaphragm. And the reason why that's important is because it's right at the bottom of the heart chakra. And so often, even though if this is prescribed for an imbalance of cold, mobile, moving, that downward pressure is also going to include the heart chakra as well. And so I now can see if the diaphragm's actually moving with that visually as I'm just working here. And so the weight of it, it's only 700 grams, and it's not about the playing of it. I know often there are a lot of people playing bowls and sounds, but this is really about the weight of it. And then there is an occasional, if they are holding their breath, when we catch them holding their breath, or we see that they are in this struggle of having the energy or the air pass all the way through, a gentle reminder, and that exhalation phase turns up. So, any questions? I mean, I could talk about the oils. The oils are all different, and they're usually prescription necessary. So warm and heavy can also mean, not only can I determine the temperature, anything from ambient temperature in the room all the way up to 105, but I could use a heavier weighted oil. So sesame, castor oil, these are heavier, and their temperature, residual temperature, stays around a lot longer. As soon as we turn this off, the half-life is less than 30 seconds. And so even though these people will be in these really REM-like status and states, as soon as we turn it off, they return very quickly with very little side effects. Often, people will talk about their experiences, but that's not the goal of us as practitioners. We're not counselors. We're not, that's what they do when they come to you guys. And so we hold space for them. I make it very safe. This is a safe environment. The table and bed takes on not only Ayurvedic theory, but it also takes yogic theory. Doing and non-doing, the bed does nothing. It is just stable. And it serves as a mirror for that client. And it's not like people are walking in off the street getting this. This is something that's recommended for them. So the stillness is something that is very difficult for them to not only even create for themselves or to be a part of when they are in perhaps a yoga class or something. And so this allows that. I get to stand as a sentry, as a guard, while they are actually experiencing that. In addition to being the DJ, I set the tone, I set the music, and that safety as well. So with that...
No, you just used the word safety, and that's the question I want to ask, because so many of the people that I work with are traumatized with chemical teas. Mm-hmm. And I would get them, I mean, I did a study back in the late 80s in Atlanta with having people who had been sexually or physically abused as children to get them on to see what impact we could have. Mm-hmm. And so we had a massage therapist, and we did certain oils and certain smells, because that was my question then for you, is with the herbals. Teach me more the difference between the herbals and the aromatherapy type of thing, but to get them from disassociating. Mm-hmm. And I see that so much with when I've done work with the DOD, is how to get them grounded again was the hardest thing. And that was a question I wanted to ask you, not to make it so specific, but as you guys went as we went together, is so many times, you were talking, I would see soldiers go to Bata. You know, they would be so ungrounded, and all the things that I would make them, and they always laughed and called not crazy, because I make them take the shoes off and walk in the grass to reground themselves and that kind of thing, and train them that, when IEDs hit, is your ass in the sand, or are you still boots on the ground, and what you have to do to get your safety and your brain back in so that I'm having them act versus react and get them out of, as much as I could, out of the sympathetic system. So this is just fascinating for me to be able to.
May I go first, Tanya? As a clinician, I would think that PTSD, that soldier, if we're talking from the soldier point of view, I was one of them as well. And so there's a respect going on that they want to feel safe with one of their own as well, as opposed to a clinician who is giving them by the book this policy and how to do that. And so the point that you bring up, you're exactly right. We actually don't take for the soldiers or those folks that have experienced where they need to know where they are at all points, times, and space. And so they're alert in orientation. We do not solidify and take away all of their abilities. Yeah, so we don't cover their eyes.
That also be, 1 out of 3 women and 1 out of 4 men.
Amen.
And forget the war.
Right.
Have had
trauma.
PTSD. And so that was mine, because when you said the word safety, that's the first thing you have to create before they will.
And that's number one. I see that more than I would say probably anyone else in this town, because I'm a person of color who is with the public, and I'm a man, and so that's like, now you're adding blocks, right? Things that may have been triggers for them. So it's not like we are doing this and forcing this on them, but we actually, from every intake we have, we always let the people know, your practitioner's a male, he's a man of color, he's a person who worked in medical sciences for 25 years in women's health. So all of that work that you're talking about, that connection, is so true and so important. I fill this form, and so I live in that space even before that client comes to us. And so we've built our practice in with that mindset. Is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, that was, well, to that, I just wanted to add, when we first started, I made sure every advertisement, everything we do has a picture of the both of us, because we had a couple of I don't want to call them incidents, but where they didn't know, and we wanted to make sure, here's a picture of us, please go to our website, so that they knew. And I definitely think that's something we were very aware of and that we talked about. We're like, not only are you a man, you're a black man, how are people going to be?
And a big guy.
Yeah, and a big guy. And I was like, I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to just see, right? And it's fascinating, and I saw it so much, especially at the beginning when I would still be around, because I thought, I have to be there when a woman comes for a massage with him. And we found, once they saw him and his kapha energy, there was always like, I feel very comfortable, and he immediately made them feel grounded and supported and taken care of and nurtured. What I didn't expect, what I thought was amazing, was when men would come to him and they would say, this is the first time I've ever been touched by another man, and it was in a loving, in a safe, loving way. They said, my father never even hugged me.
Or stopped. Like at 11, 12, or 13, right? That weird age of, man up.
We had men come out of his crying saying, I can't believe I just received loving touch from another man, and it was amazing, and I felt nurtured and loved, including my father when he was still alive. My father didn't hug, he just, it was such a huge experience for him. So I think, the fact that you are, who you are, I think often helps the trauma experience in a whole nother level we didn't even think about at the beginning, how healing that can be.
Thank you
for
answering that. I hope that answered it.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
I can just I'm going to take over.
Yeah, no worries. Would you be our first volunteer? Super. Actually, you could just take that your jacket off, and then perhaps maybe leave your necklace behind. Yeah, it is. All right, mind the cord, and then I'll just give you these, and then have you come on up, and you'll hold on to those throughout the whole treatment. I'm just going to get you into position here.
Tell me when you want me to be back.
Yeah, all right. Let me just cover you. I'd love that. Yes, please. One sec. Thank you, love. All right, let's give you a little bumpity bump, and then dig in with your heels and come on up this way. Pardon my touch on your head. Super. All right. And then we'll let you go ahead and... Yes, please. We'll get you nice and grounded. You want your arms out? Or?
Please.
Okay, super. And then just going to place this right on your tummy. Cold and wet. Rose water cotton eye patches, just to take some of that light away.
Small one.
I'll give you this for 1 second. I'm also the DJ, so it is important. And it starts out with a yoga nidra.
Begin to settle into your breath. Inhaling and exhaling. Deeper and deeper.
Here we go.
With each breath, your lungs become larger,
So I'm starting out at
taking in
101.
more air.
And the crown chakra has
With
three
each exhale,
beautiful entry points, windows.
push out all of the